Sometimes when browsing the web, you find, well, to put it nicely, unique and bizarre content. Other times you find content you really love.
Yes, I am a nerd. Bookworm, I'm studio.
Sometimes, not too often, you find both. And I happen to do that. A little over a year ago, I was doing what everyone does, and I was doom scrolling on TikTok. And about after an hour or so of consuming slop, I found it. I came across a slideshow that story and art just ensnared me. It was absurd yet wonderful. It took characters from my favorite sources of media and put them in a shared universe. In a cesspool of slop and Subway Surfers gameplay, I had found it. The Mona Lisa, the starry night of online internet comics. I found Bribob. Hey everybody, I've returned from my pit and I'm back with a new video for you to consume. If you're new here, I'm Grog. I make videos about a bunch of different things, and today we're going to be talking about Bribob. I've been keeping up with this series for a little over a year, probably since it started, and I've been charmed by it ever since. I even got the chance to talk to the series creator, Iris, in an exclusive interview about the comic. Hope you enjoy the video. Before jumping into the interview, let's talk about the background of the comic. The first Bribob comic was uploaded on July 8th by Iris Lamore, or Flower Cannibal, on TikTok. As of recording this, the Bribob multiverse sits at an impressive 99 parts. It's almost hard to explain what Bribob is actually about. I mean, it has so many crazy plot lines, from crazy pairings like Guts in post-COVID Stan, to Steven and Nagito running their own murder game show called Diamond Rampa. But you see, the story gets its namesake from the budding relationship between Brian Griffin and SpongeBob. The two star-crossed lovers meet at their lowest at an AA meeting run by Steven Universe. And that's how our story starts. While not all of the plot points are inherently connected, the characters often come across each other's paths, intertwining the story to make all these different plot points into a shared universe. From the first upload on TikTok, Bribob was a viral success. The first part got over 1 million views and over 200,000 likes. 1 year later, and the comic still pulls impressive numbers. Some chapters getting millions of views and still has a dedicated core audience. One of the big things I really love about the comic is, despite it being a webcomic, each panel is hand-drawn. And you can actually purchase these panels on Iris's website, which of course, you know I had to do. I got Guts. I think he's cool. Oh, there he is. Now jumping into the interview, we filmed this a few months ago. Me and Iris talked about their background, Bribob, and creating as an artist. I want to thank them for doing this interview with me, as I really appreciate it. So, here's the interview. Alrighty, so I am here, joined with Iris. If you'd like to give a brief introduction, some background of who you are, how long you've been doing art, things like that.
So my name is Iris Lamore, and I've been making art my whole life. Right now I'm making comics on the internet, and it's kind of my thing right now.
So if you don't mind talking a little bit about like why you created Bribob, what sort of inspired you to make that comic?
So I wanted to poke fun at myself, because in my personal life, I had tried to fix someone else's addiction. And then once that chapter of my life had passed, and I looked back on it, and I just sat there thinking about how silly and immature it was to really think that I could tell someone, hey, stop doing drugs. So I took Steven, and Steven already had this in Steven Universe Future, this whole little tent and this helping people dilemma. And so I just decided to be like, what would it be if I took my emotions and amped them up to like 1 million? And so I made Steven get his own AA tent and try to force his dad into it. And that was the biggest inspiration behind Bribob, along with finding a meme of Brian and SpongeBob, like ship art. And I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. And so I just wanted to have all of those ideas coalesce into like a little comic.
I gotcha. That's great. It's a sort of a little way to express past feelings, to kind of get it out there and joke on it. I feel like a lot of artists do that in general.
Yeah.
Um, so how did going viral sort of affect the creation of this comic? I mean, it went viral pretty quick with, I think it was like 100,000 views on TikTok, somewhere in that
Yeah.
ballpark. Like, has it sort of changed your life in general? Kind of how you produce the comic?
Definitely, if Bribob wouldn't go viral, I would have dropped it. Like I would have tried to move on to something else. But I saw how much it resonated with people, and I thought, you know what, this is something to sink my teeth into, and try to develop this world in a genuine way because I actually captured people's attentions and emotions, and I don't want to let that go. I want to work on it because people want me to work on it. So yeah, before Bright Bob, I tried to make a couple other comics, and I wasn't feeling them, and my audience also was just like, eh. So I feel like I kind of struck gold a little bit. Like I was able to find a good balance between like humor, some serious stuff, and yeah, I've just been investing my time into it, and I really like it.
Has the series changed your life since it's gotten so big? Has it affected things?
Yeah, I revolve my life around like making as much of it as possible right now, which is not sustainable, but I love daydreaming. I love just writing down ideas, or if I find a song, or if I find a pretty leaf, or whatever I'm looking at, I love to think about how I can make it into art. So it's just been a great way for me to do that. Or like any new TV show I watch, I'm like, I could put that in Bright Bob. And yeah, I don't know how much of my life will be like this, but for the moment, I love pouring all of myself like into this world and sharing it.
That's awesome. I mean, like, obviously, I think a lot of the fans love seeing you work on the comic and seeing new chapters come out. Um, but I did have a question about the creation of the comic because you do sell the sort of the individual Bribot panels. So
Yeah,
what kind of made you create the series by hand as opposed to digital? Like a lot of, I would kind of classify this as a web comic to a degree because it's posted
yeah.
online, but it's not made digitally. So what was the choice behind that?
So to me, it's like a super chronically online comic. So I thought it was it was a great way to make it stand out in that genre, was having it done by hand. And also I had a really tough time transitioning from physical to digital, and the amount of choices with digital just like overwhelmed me, and I would just get art block.
Right.
So
Yeah.
something about physically, I just like it's the best method for me to actually get stuff on paper and get it out.
Mhm.
And I really love selling my handmade art. I just feel like handmade art is really special,
Mhm.
and I like sharing that with people in the world. It makes me feel like I'm more connected with the world somehow. So yeah.
I mean, as someone who has purchased that art, I think everyone really loves it. I think it's super cool to have your own little piece of the story that you've cultivated sort of an online fan base for.
Yeah.
Um, so in the series, we see a lot of ships between various characters. Obviously, sort of the main one being Brian, Griffin, and SpongeBob. Well, like, which one's your favorite out of all the ones you've made?
So right now, my favorite one is gonna be my Sonic and Shadow Sonato
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So for new readers, I would look at my Sonato chemotherapy piece, or the one I just released, which is the Ecstasy of Saint Sonic. I don't on it. It's like a ship that I don't know what it is, but I'm able to like pull out some really interesting stuff out of me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like make some crazy art. And it's like a really intense, toxic little relationship thing. And I love drawing them. I so yeah, we used to like doodle Sonic in high school all the time, and it's really fun to be able to make comics about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been seeing that. I just read the new Sonic and Shadow one in the art. I know it was amazing. It was super awesome to read. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
Um, so is there any? There's so much that's been added. Everything from like Berserk to I've even seen like Homestuck and Ninjago in the backgrounds of panels. Is there any character or fandom that you're just like, no, I'm not adding that to the series?
Yeah, like any creator that I think, like the first one that comes to mind is like J.K. Rowling.
Mhm.
So I think she's even donated to like anti-trans stuff. Like she's an actively bad person.
Right.
So I don't want to promote her art or like promote creators that are bad people like that. I think that my comic has more influence than I thought it was, and people will check out things that I do put in it. So I feel some responsibility not to put in like some things. So I have like a little blacklist I've developed of like, okay, what has this creator done in this series, and do I want to promote something that actually has this? And yeah, if I'm uncomfortable with the material or if my audience is, I just scrap it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird area because it's like, I just don't want to put some stuff in it, and then I don't. There's parts of like my comic universe goes into a lot of areas, but there's a lot of things that I selectively keep out of Bribob to make it my little safe space in a weird way. I don't know how to describe it. So
I mean, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of sure, there's like the sort of drama aspects of the comic, but it is a very fun comic that people like to read.
Like, for example, so Shadow is a trans woman in my comic, and I just made it a point, like, I'm never gonna make a transphobic joke in the comics. No, there's no joke. No one misgenders her or anything like that. Like, so there's some stuff, like, I won't say that out loud, or I won't put in, like, there's gonna be none of this in Bribob.
Yeah.
But I have little things where I'm like, I'm just not gonna put this sort of negativity into my art. So,
right, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's great to see, especially in an age where a lot of jokes are designed to be just super edgy. I mean,
yeah, cheap.
Yeah, like things can still be super funny without being edgy for no reason.
Yeah.
So you've made a lot of Bribob comics at this point. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but we're pushing like into the 80s?
89.
Okay. So are the story arcs, is everything planned out? Or is you kind of just take it chapter by chapter and see how it goes?
I was, let's see. I have general storyboards outlined, but I will change them on a dime if I feel like it. So that's kind of the double-edged sword of having no editors. There's literally no one else besides me at the helm of this little ship. And I'll have a general idea thought out, and sometimes an arc will take a couple chapters. So like on the second chapter of an arc I'm working on, I'll really look at the comments and see, like, does anyone get what I'm doing? Do people like it? Do they resonate with it? And sometimes if I'm not feeling it and my audience is it, I'll just drop it and move on to something else. Or sometimes I will change a story arc completely if someone comments something that like blows my mind. I'm like, that was smarter than what I was gonna do. I'll actually just take what they're like thinking, like, oh my gosh, what if that happened? I was like, yeah, what if that happened? And I'll pull it out. And yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff, like part of the latest comic I just made, like Steven's like meat bucket or whatever. That was not in the original plan. Yeah. That was like a last minute decision while I was making it out. I was like, oh yeah, where did all of this stuff go? I'll just have him have like a weird bucket for his, because in my comic, Steven turns into Sans, so he like loses his body. But I like, it helps keep me on my toes, and I think it helps keep my audience on its toes. If it's not like formulaic or if it's that sporadic, I feel like I love not being able to predict what happens in movies and TV shows, so I want to have that element in my art too.
I love that. That's great. I think it's a super fun way and unique way to do things. I see a lot of online creators just go super into like planning things years in advance, but I think it's fun to change things up.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good.
Like, I've set up some stuff that happened a literal year ago from today, and I was thinking that seriously about it. Like, I set up I do set up Steven and Nagito. I set up Guts in like the first 2 chapters, and like on my TikTok timeline, I was like, you posted that a year ago. I'm like, oh my god. And I would say to like new artists, like to not be intimidated by perfection or perfectionism like that, because I was able to set up some pretty cool stuff, but it wasn't by worrying so much if it's gonna go right. It was just like doing it and figuring it out while it happens, sort of thing. So yeah.
Perfect. That's great. So I think the question is, you're nearing 100 chapters. Is there an end in sight, or is this just like doing it as long as you can, as long as you feel like it, or is there like a grand finale, something like that?
I grand finale planned, and kind of the heart of Bribob is Brian and SpongeBob, so I feel like I'll tie it up in a bow with them possibly breaking up whenever Bribob ends, because that's the end of Bribob.
Right. Yeah.
I do like I love making this comic, and I am a little bit afraid of like, what if I step away from it and I don't make anything that people like again, which is a goofy thing, but I do feel like it's a stepping stone, and I shouldn't be in this like fandom parody space for too long.
Yeah.
Like I should invest in making my own universe, my own characters, and make it like that. But for the time being, I find so much joy in it, and I'm able to express myself in a way that I can't really with other stuff. And I'm able to reach so many people with it. And once I feel like the passion's gone, once I feel like my audience is like not that into it anymore, I'll want to move on to something else, sort of thing.
I mean, I think it definitely. Go ahead.
I set it up intentionally so I can make it go as long as I want or as short. So I do have like definite things planned for like a character death or like a way that things will go downhill when I want them to.
Right.
But for the time being, I like keeping people up here because I don't think the comic, well, I don't want to jinx it, but I like where it is right now. So my characters are like they aren't like reaching their climax and it's like the end of an arc for them yet, sort of thing.
Yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense, like what you were mentioning about sort of creatives in general kind of moving on from something they got really popular for. I think that's like a super scary thing for anyone who does online creation. But I mean, I am also super excited to see whatever you make next. I'm sure a lot of people are, whether Bribob lasts another 7 years or lasts another 2 months. Like it's. I think everyone's super excited to see what you're gonna make next, which leads me into my next and final question, or more of just like something for you to talk about. Any like upcoming projects you're working on, or anything unrelated to Bribob that you'd like to say or mention?
Well, this is something I would like do as I say, not as I do. Like for artists not to put all their eggs in one basket, because that's actually gone wrong for me in the past. But right now, it's like so fun for me just to focus all of my energy into it. I really am not thinking about anything else, but I have that in the back of my head, like you should start thinking about something else.
Right.
But I don't, which is kind of silly. But I know I can change gears if I need to. Like I'm not gonna hold on to it if it feels like it needs to be let go, sort of thing. But I'm able to go into so many different areas. If I want to do something horrific, if I want to do something more romantic, or just like slice of life, I'm able to change it to whatever I feel like based on that week. So if I was more trapped into like this is a comic with a very specific vibe, I would probably be trying to break away from it more. But because I'm able to explore so many different little avenues, I'm just having fun with like pouring it all into this for the moment.
It's awesome. That is all the questions I have for you. Thank you so much for joining me and answering these questions. I really appreciate it. Is there any final things you'd like to say to wrap stuff up, I guess?
I do have a little Patreon thing, and it's the most consistent income I make. So I have a little like $1 tier, and you get like comics a little bit earlier in advance whenever I can work on them. And then that's about it. I might put some more tiers in there later, but that's the best way to help me out if you want to. And thank you so much for interviewing me today. It was super fun. So,
of course, I had so much fun doing this. Love the comic. I'm a huge fan. I also want to say, everyone, definitely go to their Patreon. definitely buy their art. It's awesome. I love it. But on that, yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you again, Iris, for doing this interview with me. I really appreciate it. But now we're going to talk about the comic a little bit more. We're going to jump more into a spoiler type territory. Those spoilers are something you care about. You've been warned. So Bribob has some of the most absurd and crazy plot lines that I've read in comics. And it's just so funny that I'd like to talk about some of my favorites in the comic run. The first thing I'd like to talk about happens pretty early in the comics run. I think it's the 3rd or 4th chapter. I like to call it Let's Take Ibuprofen Together. It's where Randy hits Guts from Berserk with his car. So Stan takes him to Weenie Hut General to obviously get better. And there's this very, what I like to call infamous scene where they have ibuprofen together. It's very literally that, but I think it's hilarious. I mean, having Guts force feed Stan Marsh ibuprofen is hilarious to me, and I will never get over it. Okay, so in chapter 80 of the comic, it is titled Griffith Slips on a Banana Peel. So Griffith, from Berserk, one of the most evil people out there, in this comic universe is married to that the gender bent version of Cartman from South Park. And Brian Griffin is currently working as their jester. And he is dressed up as a banana, doing his thing, and Griffin walks into the room, steps on him, slips, and fucking dies. Breaks his neck, snaps his neck, dead. The comic kills off Griffith by slipping on a banana peel, and nothing could be funnier. Nothing could be funnier than that. There is no topping that, in my opinion. In one of the chapters of Bribob, we see Sonic sort of trying to get over his relationship with Shadow. And he's not really so much getting over it, aside from just being depressed about it. And he's looking through this calendar of pictures of Shadow, and then Jesse Pinkman storms in and just starts yelling at him and starts going off on him now he needs to move on and all this shit. And it's funny, Sonic scrambling around on the floor, trying to pick up pieces of the calendar after it's ripped apart, and you looking at it, it's a bunch of references stuff, and you're like, shit, is that Iridescent's Shadow album cover? That's so funny. That's so good. And then just seeing Jesse Pinkman yell, "She's not your bitch," is so funny. Definitely one of the goofier chapters in terms of what is actually going on. The last little thing I want to talk about isn't really necessarily a plot point or a moment. It's just all of the really awesome art and all of the cool characters you see in the background. It's Iris will put out these amazing art pieces to support the comic, and I just think they're so good and they are so talented. But then also I'll look in the backgrounds and I'll be like, shit, it's Sensei Wu. I fucking love Sensei Wu. And I think that's so much fun. I know a lot of this section, if you don't know the series, sounds insane and it sounds like the ramblings of a madman, but I feel like if you guys like goofy shit like this, I would seriously take a look at the comic and just kind of skim through it. It's really fun. It's a fun time. So we've been talking about this comic this whole time, talking to the creator, doing all that stuff. To end off the video, I thought it would be very fun to do a let's read of the first chapter. So I sat down with some of my friends and this is what we made.
Huh? I bet they got a nice dog park here. The closest AA meeting is at Little Homeschool. How infantilized. What the? Is this like a hippie commune?
Welcome, everybody! I see a lot of new faces today.
Is this seat taken?
Oh no, you're good.
You see the welcome sign? It said they're a colony of space aliens.
What? Oh god.
I know, right? Hopefully they won't abduct us on a spaceship if we relapse.
You don't seem the alcoholic type. Not to be rude, you just have a light air about you.
Well, I'm trying to stop it before it gets to that point. My boss died and his business soon after. I'm out of work. It's hard to talk about.
No, I get it, really. My own novel isn't coming along well, and yeah, I feel that loss of purpose creep up.
You seem like a smart guy. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Thank you. Oh, I'm Brian, by the way.
I'm SpongeBob.
Oh.
He seems like he's arguing with someone.
No, he said he was gonna show up. Dad's feeling out of it for the last time. No, fuck that. Someone call him. Anyone have my dad's number?
I thought this was Alcoholics Anonymous.
I'm not getting into that right now. Okay, thanks, Shadow. No, drive that shitty, nasty van and get over here now. I don't give a fuck about the car wash now.
Snowballs! Hi, Shadow. I'm sober now. We've been over this.
No, you're not. I found receipts stuffed between the fan's seat cushions. Didn't even bother to throw them away.
Okay, so I bought beer too. It's a social thing. It's not drinking.
Stop lying.
Hey,
What happened to staying clean? What about my AA
wanna
meeting?
ditch Daddy Issue Central?
I only started them to help you, Dad.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Well, then you can stop. Just stop.
Oh yeah, that's Bribob. I hope you're interested in the series. I hope you go and look at it and read it and consume it. I highly encourage you guys to go check it out for yourself. Big thank you to Iris for doing the interview with me. That was like the third time we had to record it because the first time my power went out and the file got corrupted, and the second time there were some audio issues. Thank you for being patient and working with me through that. I really appreciate you, Iris. Everyone should support their work, support independent artists, buy stuff off their website, join their Patreon. Supporting independent artists is always an awesome thing to do. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. Any of that stuff, any support on the channel means a lot. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I'm Grog. Have a good night, everybody.